All right. So we are keeping the party going. We're going to start in just a few minutes. Hi, Louise. Hi, Kerstin. Oh, I'm so
Hi.
excited. Yes, Kerstin. Hi.
Hey.
Hi, my beautiful people.
Hi.
You guys look amazing. I'm so excited.
You're
Awesome.
doing such a great job today.
Oh,
I've
thank
been
you.
on some of those other webinars, and your logistics are just like spot on.
Thank you so much. We tried really hard to just make it flow as best as possible, even with me being a mama. My 4-year-old is surprisingly doing really well. Um, so we're going to keep this good, in celebration of, International Women's Day. I think we should just keep the high energy and the good technical luck. We haven't had too many technical glitches, so I think we're cooking with gas here. Love it. Um, awesome. So, hi, Vicky. Hi, everybody in the chat. I know you guys, some of you guys joined over to from the last session. Abigail, Kelly, Don, Nina, Taryn Taylor, Veronica, another Veronica, Vicky. I mean, there's just so many amazing people that have been joining throughout the entire day. So shout out to you guys. This has been so far just really exceptional. In this session, we're going to be talking about building winning websites, and none other than who else would I have on this call than the amazing Louise Henry, who's built a business with a course that websites that wow, that's been amazing. Kerstin Martin, who's just been phenomenal with every last one of her courses in terms of like Squarespace website design. Literally, you ladies have been doing amazing work, and honestly, I look up to you guys in terms of like the service work that you have done. So I am a fan, genuinely. And it's an honor to have you on this call, and it's an honor to just share your wealth and meet with these beautiful people. So today I just want to take a moment. So Louise, I'm going to go into my little screen circle. Louise, if you just want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do, what you're doing now, and how you can serve today.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so excited to be here. I too have been following along today. So impressed with the event and how organized they are behind the scenes is incredible. So great job. And thank you so much for putting this together. So, yeah, I teach entrepreneurs how to really leverage different tech tools so that they can make building their business even easier, so that you can really use tech to your advantage, so that you can scale up and so that you can work smarter and not harder. So that's my main thing. Websites is definitely one of the core pieces because I feel like it's your foundation, it's your digital home online. So it is really important. And so I love to have entrepreneurs start there. So I teach that. And then I also love to teach organization and marketing and sales funnels as well. So that is what I do over at louisehenry.com. And then I have tons of free trainings and tutorials on YouTube as well, which you can check out, which is Louise Henry, and that'll get you started with all things tech. I really aim to make it simple and fun. So it doesn't matter how techie you feel, even if you're not techie at all, I got you.
Love it. Kerstin, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you.
And Louise, by the way, I love your YouTube. I mean, you have so many great videos on there. I regularly go there and look for stuff. So it's actually been wonderful because I remember when Louise started a few years ago, and I first saw you, and you were one of the first YouTubers to do Squarespace stuff and all that. I thought, oh gosh, and this is cool. And so it's just been amazing to watch you grow. And and Sequoia, thanks for having me as well. This is all likewise everything you said earlier. So I'll give it right back to you. So I've been around for a while, and I've actually been using. So I'm a Squarespace expert. So I basically live and breathe Squarespace, and I've been using them since 2008. I used to be a blogger. I started blogging in 2005, and I was always redesigning my websites. That was my idea of R&R, is to tinker with my website. And when I discovered Squarespace. I was still on version 5 actually back then, amazingly enough. And so in 2014, as part of a transition, moving from the UK to the US, I decided to become a professional web designer with Squarespace, and I started out doing that. And then after a couple of years, I've always enjoyed teaching. I've done that a lot actually in my corporate career. I used to do a lot of workshops and things like that. And people were always asking me, well, how do you do this in Squarespace? How do you do that? And so I thought, well, maybe I'll do my first course. And it really kind of snowballed from there, So I ended up with 6 courses and teaching all the different parts of Squarespace, and so how to build a website, how to host an e-course on Squarespace, especially now with member areas. I used to tweak the system to make it work before then, I used to teach that. SEO, I teach that, and also how to build a business as a Squarespace web designer. And so it's just been an amazing ride really with Squarespace. I often say, I feel like I'm married to Squarespace, like for better and worse.
Yeah.
We have our rough patches sometimes, but overall it's actually been a pretty amazing relationship. So.
I love that. Thank you, ladies. I think you both are amazing. And, in this session, we're really talking about websites, but I think you both hit it on the nail in terms of like website is your digital home. When we think of social media, and there's no knock to social media because I do love it. I'm an entertainer, and I love watching the edutainment on social media. However, when it comes to what is ownership and what do you have, your website is that's your digital space, that's your digital home, even if it's just as simple as a landing page. And so I did want to have the conversation about building a website because I think it's important to all small businesses, especially just having their own digital space, even if it's a landing page. Tony Howell used to always say, like, he said, think about your websites in terms of your home. He's like, sometimes if you're not ready to put the whole bells and you're not ready to buy the house, sometimes just put up an apartment and that is just all you need. And so I also want you to encourage you, even if you haven't had a website, or you don't have a website, or it's just not doing what you want right now, just investing in having that kind of landing page or home or something. In a nutshell. So with that said, I'd love to just pick your brains about, what are some of the elements that you absolutely need to have on your website? So the websites are great just to have. You definitely need to have a home, but it also needs to do a job. Like, just to have a website that's pretty is one thing, but to have a website that does work for you is the whole point of having a business and having it. So I'm going to go in my little circle, Louise, some elements that, or, must-haves that you should have on your website.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm so happy to be here because these two ladies are just complete Squarespace pros. So all of us here, we love Squarespace. And so we will talk to you about that because it makes creating your website so much easier than it used to be. So I feel like this is going to be a great discussion. So yeah, few elements. One of the first things that I think is super important is that really you shine through your website. I think it being representative of you and having your visitor, having someone who comes to your site, be able to really get a sense of who you are, I think is one of the most important things. And, you can go after this and check out all of our websites. And I think you'll see that it comes through. I was on each of your websites before this, and it really does come through, and you can get a sense of who that person is and how they work and what you can expect if you are going to become a client or student of theirs. Another thing is that it does look professional. It definitely is, it's your first impression for your business. And like Sequoia said, it's so great because it is your digital home and it allows you to tell your story all in one place. I love social media too, but if I go on Instagram and I find someone new, I have to scroll through and kind of piece their story together, but your website allows you to tell it all in one place and so much easier. So yeah, Squarespace really does make it really accessible for DIYers to put together something that looks modern and professional. They have templates created already, and really they make it as fill in the blanks as possible. So that's fantastic. Another key element, I think, is, as Sequoia was saying, being aware that your website can't just be pretty. I feel like when you're first getting started, when I was building my first website, that is all I was concerned about. I was just concerned about the appearance of it, and I didn't realize the actual marketing pieces that were there. So I would say most people, when they come to your website for the very first time, they are not going to be ready to buy yet. Majority, right? There's going to be a small percentage of people that are, but most people are going to need more warming up. So I would say one of the most effective things that you can do with your website is build an email list. And you'll see all three of us doing that. And I know Sequoia is the email pro. And it's so important. That's what's going to allow you to follow up with people and actually take them from them discovering you to then becoming a client, a student, whatever it is. So that's really, really effective. Another way you could do that as well for any of my service-based entrepreneurs out there is to offer free discovery calls. So Sequoia, I saw that you're doing that. That is so effective. If you're doing one-on-one work of some kind, just having a visitor be able to book in, speak with you and overcome, any objections they might have, answer any of their questions. That's a really effective way as well. So a way of converting, website visitors onto your email list or getting them onto a call is super, super effective. Another thing I wanted to talk about was demonstrating your expertise. So this is another huge piece of the website puzzle, and you don't have to have it right from day one, but it is something that I would add on after. And that is really showing that you're an expert in what you do and allowing you to build up, that trust with people. So people know, okay, this person knows exactly what they're doing and I would love to work with them. Because with your content, so the way I would, show your expertise is through content of some kind, whether you want to do blog posts, if you want to do videos, if you want to do podcasts, it doesn't matter, but just some way of really showing your expertise and also having people be able to get to know you. I think that's one of the most important things that you can do. I know we've all done that and we've all seen huge impacts in our businesses because we chose to do that. So those are a few of the most important elements, I would say. I'm sure you guys have some more to add.
I love that. I mean, you hit a lot on the nail. And like you said, like showing your expertise. One of the things that I always like an exercise for people to figure out whether or not their website is doing what it's supposed to do. I say, send it to a friend or somebody who does not know that what you do and have them answer this question. Who are you and what do you do? And if they can't answer that, that's an opportunity to say, okay, I need to shore up some things on my website. If they can, then you've hit it on the nail. That's exactly that's what the website is supposed to do. Kerstin, do you have any elements that you want to add?
Actually, yeah, one. I mean, everything Louise said, totally, that's spot on. And I agree with all of that. And I think the one thing that I also am very passionate about is about pages. Because I see a lot of not so great about pages out there. And, and I think the about page is one of the most important pages. So spend some time creating that and telling people about you. I see so many about pages where people make them about their customers. Oh, are you this? Do you have that? No, it's about you. I want the about page is about the why. Why should I work with you? Why should I trust you to do something? So tell people, I mean, a lot of people feel like they can't really talk about themselves. They want to make it about the customer, and that's fine. You can do that everywhere else on your website too. And absolutely, address customers' challenges and all that. But on the about page, just tell people about who you are and where do you come from? What is your background? What are your qualifications? What qualifies you to do this, to offer this service? And so I would say, spend some time doing that. And, I think that's very important. And yeah, so that's what I feel very passionate about is have a.
I love that. And what, I've never actually thought about the about page in that way before. But like you said, like the about page is the one area where you can really showcase who you are and just show up with your why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Simon Sinek. I love that quote. I love everything about Simon Sinek. So I think that is crucial to this, having a website that showcases. And like Louise said, share your story. That's an opportunity to do that. I love that. Just getting to a couple of questions. Marianne said, I'm using Squarespace 7.0 for my nonprofit's website. Is there a sunset date for 7.0 or can I breathe for a while? You can breathe for a while. They're not giving it up right now. Although I do really, so I will say this, I am still on 7.0, my personal website. So don't be afraid. Like it's not going away. I do appreciate 7.1. That has a lot of bells and whistles. And again, for women in this room, and you're building a website as a do-it-yourselfer, like you're not investing in somebody helping you with it, 7.1 is a great way to start that, because it does have an easier interface for you to kind of go ahead and get started. So you can breathe easy, my love. Louise, this is a question for Louise or anyone. Is it possible to create this personal brand when your brand is a company, but not necessarily a personal brand?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's such a good question, because it's easier, I would say, like it's easier to see how that would work when you are the face of the brand. But it's absolutely still possible even with the company. So I would recommend, on your about page, still showcasing the people behind it. It doesn't matter that, there's a big team behind, like that's great. We would love to see that. And I think it's about having your overall like vibe, personality that can still come through a brand, and it doesn't have to be a personal. So I would just kind of think of the company or brand as itself with a personality, as though it was a person. And so you still want that coming through. So it doesn't matter. I think same rules apply even if you're a brand.
I love that. That question was from Veronica, who is a member of your website that wows course. I love that.
Amazing.
Thanks, Veronica. I mean, I think that's also a great question too, just in terms of, I always get asked like personal brand versus company website, like when do you make the distinction? And I think it's definitely a personal choice, but I think when you are so for example, you could be somebody that is the face of your company. Think Melissa Griffin, right? Who's the face of the company, but there's a team of people that's making that happen. But there's a company voice, there's a company culture, there's a company mission behind what you're doing. DailyMode is my company, DailyMode is the agency, but there's a team of people that are behind that make that work. Sequoia Mulgrave is the person that might speak or train or workshop. So there's delineation between the two. But again, I think it's a personal choice. I think your company can definitely have a personal touch, and that comes to your mission, vision, values. But it's really about showcasing the personality of the company. And that goes through the language on the site, that goes through the imagery on the site, that goes through, like Kerstin said, the story on the about us. There's bigger roles there that you can play into that. Great question. So, and again, if anybody has any question, like this is an opportunity to do it. These women are amazing. They're a wealth of knowledge. And so please use them as a resource today. On top of that, I think websites also do a really great job. Like Kerstin said, Kerstin started out as a blogger, and I remember reading a lot of your blogs back in the day. Hell, I still even read some of your blogs now. And right, like before the whole redesign, it was so cool. I love Studio Notes. And I think what blogs do really well that a website does that IG can't do, that Twitter can't do, is build an SEO. Like this is so for anybody, search engine optimization, SEO, is how people search your content. So when people look up certain keywords on Google, a lot of my blog articles come up first, mainly towards email marketing, but a lot of my blog articles will come up first. But those are some ways that you can build an audience and gain a tribe and get more leads if that you're being strategic about your SEO. Kerstin, I'd love to pick your brain because I know you have a course specific to SEO. What are some easy ways that people can apply or update their SEO right now with their websites?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say SEO does not happen overnight,
No.
So be patient, right? And when I started out, I didn't pay any attention to SEO. I just basically did my thing. And then after a couple of years, I realized a lot of my leads were coming in through Google. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, so, and then I Googled myself and I realized, oh, I'm on page 1, and I thought, oh, okay, so what have I all done? So I kind of backtracked, all the things I was doing, and I think a lot of people feel quite daunted by it, but don't be. It's actually not that complicated. SEO is mostly a combination of good habits and some basic strategies. And we distinguish between on-page and off-page, SEO strategies. So on-page, definitely make sure that your website is optimized. And if you use Squarespace, Squarespace actually has its own SEO section, where you can add your SEO descriptions, which is really easy. Every page and every blog post also has an SEO section in their settings. So make sure that those look good as well. This is a good place where you can use keywords, for instance. And if you don't use Squarespace, WordPress has similar things as well. Almost everyone does, So just make sure your basics are covered there. And also image optimization, that is often forgotten. Make sure your images are, a good size and have descriptions and what we call alt text, and it's in Squarespace, you put that in the caption, so make sure you have good image file names that make sense, to the content, where you show them, and use a caption, because search engines cannot recognize images, but they can read. And even if you hide the caption, which is what I do most of the time, because I don't actually show a caption, so I hide it, which you can very easily do in Squarespace. But the search engine will still see it in the source code of your page, so image optimization, is actually very powerful and a very easy thing to do. It's a bit of a pain, to be honest. Whenever I build a page, it's like, oh gosh, I have to add all my captions and make sure all my file names are okay. And, but it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. And, and then of course, blogging, if you are a blogger, now I always say, don't stress over it. Not everyone is a natural blogger, and depending on the nature of your business, you could hire someone to write a blog for you, because blogging is definitely a good way to get traffic to your website, and also, maybe think about hosting, having guests on your blog, have people, showcase other people, and because that will also drive traffic, through them. And, so these are all the things you can do in your website. And then if you go off page, definitely set yourself up with a Google Search Console account, submit your website through that. There's really not much more you have to do. You just submit it, and, so that you can, so that Google knows you're there. So that's basically just giving Google a nudge that you are there, and keep your website, up to date, and, try and get inbound links, so if you, for instance, are part of a professional industry, a lot of those have directories and websites. See if you can get listed there. And so Louise and I are, for instance, listed on Squarespace's website. So we get inbound links from that, and they're like high quality links. That will help with your SEO. So do some, which is what we're doing all day today, do some networking, and that will also help, to have some high quality inbound links. And but, generally just try and, when it comes to your website copy, don't stress over the keywords too much. I know a lot of people just really get very stressed by that. Keep it natural. Google is actually very good at picking up content naturally. They actually, I think they're using AI now, artificial intelligence and whatever. Yep. They don't like keyword stuffing, and they can really, think about it from the point, Google is always looking for the most helpful content. And when I say Google, that goes for all search engines, whatever Google does, the others do as well. So it's always looking for the most helpful content. So make sure your website addresses, potential questions your customers might have. and is helpful, and gives good information. That's what Google likes, and you can absolutely keep it natural and not stress about it too much.
I love that. And I think you made a good point too, just to add on to that, is that when in Squarespace specifically, and I'm sure you could do this with other platforms, when you go into your analytics, you can actually see your search words that Google will register your website. And what really helps me is that it also tells me what content I need to create next. What are people searching, and what's the content that people are searching for? And so when you go into your site, when you look at those search words, it could be whatever it is, high-end jewelry, website designing, how to do this. If those are the keywords, that's content that you really should be creating, because that's what people want. That's what they're searching for. So SEO goes both ways. A couple of questions. Melissa, hi Melissa, you've been with us all day. I love it. About 4 weeks ago, I re-strategized my SEO descriptions on Squarespace and found my Google organic search decreased over the last month. When I realized it takes months to really see impact, but I was expecting to remain in the same level, not drop. Is this normal? So I would also, if you re-strategized, I would also look at whatever links people were searching. Did all of your links convert over? It might have been just people were looking at old links potentially. And if those were keywords that really met your niche, like if these were keywords that were not necessarily, I know Melissa, you're high-end jewelry. If these are keywords that didn't really meet what you were going for, then it might have been okay to just have those decrease and just really focus on keywords that matter for you. I don't want to be searched for like costume jewelry. I want to be searched for something specific. You know what I mean? Hopefully that answers. Does anybody else want to add anything?
And I think if you are re-strategizing, then probably the people who used to look for the old stuff where you ranked high, they're not going to be the same people anymore, which is basically what Sequoia just said, but give it some time. It can take a little, whenever you make like big changes, you can see a temporary drop, but it should actually pick up again, especially if you, keep your website up to date, and make sure that everything you have now as part of your re-strategization, that's reflected in your copy, and it will pick up again.
Yeah. And Melissa, if you're doing jewelry, like if you have a lot of product shots, I would make sure that my images, like Kerstin said, the alt text are there, because that would actually really help with your SEO. Product businesses. Great question. There was another quick question. Give me. I find that 7.1, this is Squarespace, guys, for everybody in the chat. I find that Squarespace 7.1 makes it harder to resize images quickly. Any suggestions or feedback on this? I'm going to pass it to one of you guys, because I don't know if it's
I live and breathe 7.1, so
I was say 7.1. Kerstin is on it. She's like,
and it's actually the images. The way images work in 7.1 is actually the same way as they do in 7.0, and you don't actually resize them in Squarespace. You have some editing options in Squarespace, to change the aspect ratio of your image, or things like that, but you don't actually resize them. I always recommend to size your images before you upload them, and to also make the file size as small as possible. So generally, I recommend banner images 2,500 pixels across. Any other images you use on your website, 1,500 for horizontal images. Vertical and square, I usually just do 1,000. And then I usually run my images through like tinypng.com, or there are others too, to bring this file size below 500 KB. That's what you want for all of your images. And I would actually do that before. You cannot resize images like that in Squarespace, so you want to do that through either your photo software, or it's actually very easy. For instance, if you use a Mac, if you do preview, use the preview app, you can very easily resize images in that. And, so you want to do it beforehand.
Love that. The questions are coming in, guys. One more. You're welcome, Veronica. Marion, what bounce rate do you consider too high? I think that's always a relative question because it just depends on what track. I mean, and that's looking at analytics. So bounce rate meaning, for anybody that needs to know, bounce rate meaning how many people are going to any particular given page on your website and then hopping off. So they're not digging around in your site, they just hop off the website. So bounce rate could be high if you have people coming to your website that don't align with whatever you're providing or servicing. Or they, again, they're not, your website's not answering those two questions. Who am I and what do I do? And if that meets what they need. So for me, like in my own business, I would say bounce rate that's really high is like over 75%. But I've also seen things as high as like 85% and that really still convert really well with the people that do get through and go around the website. So I think to answer that question, I would really play into why people are bouncing. Are they your target audience? Where are they coming from? Are they coming from Google? Are they coming from social? Are they not meeting exactly what you're speaking to? And I think that brings me to my next question is like, how do you write content on your website that converts, right? So I'd love to pick both of you guys' brains in terms of like what's really good content, or how can you write highly converting content when you're building your website? Because that's a big portion of it. I know in my experience, when customers come to me, they're like, all right, website design, but then they're like, content, oh wow, that thing, So I'll go to Circle Louise.
Yeah, for sure. So you mean like the copy itself, right?
The copy itself.
Yeah, which is tricky. Yeah, you think of the visuals and how it looks, and then you're reminded, okay, the copy is a huge piece of it. So with that, I think communicating that you understand their struggles is one of the most important things that you can do. If you can communicate empathy, really, that you understand, okay, whether you've been there yourself before, or you've worked with, many clients who've been in their situation, and you can clearly and succinctly. So, this doesn't have to be long and drawn out. Definitely, like, I feel like short, concise copy works the best online. But if you can clearly communicate where they are at and where they're struggling, but then really where they want to go, and you can paint the picture of this final, really positive side over here, destination where they want to be, I think that's one of the most effective things that you can do. And just, letting them know that you understand them, and then all the different ways that you can help them. And when you're talking about helping them, not just, getting caught up in the details, like, oh, I'll help you, build a 5-page website, for example. You're really focused on the big picture benefits of working with you. So what is that going to look like? Okay, well, if you have your website, then you're going to have your digital home, and you're going to have a 24/7 marketing tool for your business. You really need to think of, okay, what are those like life-changing benefits of whatever it is that you offer, and focus on illustrating that, I think.
I love. So writing copy that is about the result, not so much the task. I love that. Kerstin, any tidbits?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's absolutely spot on. Think about questions that people might ask and answer those, through your copy. And, and again, try and just keep it natural though, and if you're really struggling with it, do consider hiring a copywriter, because when I was still a web designer, when I had clients, I could always help them with like basic, copywriting and copy editing. But when they really were struggling and it just became apparent, I usually would try and do that before, I took the job, I would have a good conversation about content with them. And I have said, I think you need a copywriter, because it's not everyone's zone of genius to write about what they do, and it is an investment, but it's very much worth it. I've worked with some amazing copywriters, and so I would say, consider that too, if you are struggling with it, and but otherwise, what Louise suggested is really, show them the benefits and the end result. This is what you can end up with, and this is how it's going to help you and your business, and infuse it with your passion And
I love that.
I don't think you can go wrong with that.
I love that. I mean, when you really think about a website, on the bare minimum, it's nothing but a bunch of images and text, right? So imagery and your words matter because those are what people are, those are the sole things that people are looking at. And so when it comes to words, one of the really great things that I have people do when it comes to websites or copy and emails is like interview people that you've worked with in the past. If you've ever had like a project that you really loved, or you ever had a partnership or a community that you really love talking with, it was easy to do. You need to pick up the phone, send an email, send a DM, and have a conversation with that person and interview them on the process or your zone of genius. Interview them on that process, because those are the nuggets that you can take out and put on your website. They really appreciate you for X, Y, and Z. You help them do whatever. Not only are you taking those nuggets, because that's exactly the end product you gave somebody, so that's exactly what you're selling, that's the result, but also you get the language. You get the language that people are using when they're having trouble. So if I say something, a customer might, or a myriad of customers might say something really different. I know email and website can get a little tech jargon. We're talking about alt text, we're talking about bounce rate, you know what I mean? And some people can say things very differently. And so you want to use the language that your customers or your potential customers are using. That copy on your website sells twofold, because when people are reading it, like Louise said, you're speaking directly to what you're trying to solve, right? So that they're like, man, she gets me. Louise and Kerstin gets me. This is who I need to invest my dollars into, because they understand where I'm coming from, but they also see where I'm trying to go. And sometimes customers don't even know what they're looking for. You know what I mean? Sometimes when people visit you, they have something in mind of what they need, but they're like, oh, but they really need X, Y, and Z. And that's what you're trying to convey. That's what you're trying to tell the story on. So I would really play around with the copy on your website and whatnot. And Kerstin, you made a good point about hiring a copywriter. When it comes to hiring, right, there is the question about, do I need to be a do-it-yourselfer? Can I knock this out myself? Or when is it right to hire somebody, if that's the case, whether it's a copywriter, whether that's a website designer? I'd love to pick your brains, because I know that's always a catch-22. People are like, I think I need this. I think I could do it myself. And then sometimes they're like redesigning their website every year. It's a thing, you know what I mean? So for you guys, when is the right time to really invest, in your experience, to invest in hiring somebody, whether it's a website designer or copywriter?
Yeah, for sure. So I think a website designer, obviously is so beneficial to have. I think that step and that, larger financial investment makes the most sense if you are very clear now about your brand and what you're going to do. So, I teach DIY, and I love that because it shows people, and it empowers them to be able to create their own website, but then, also edit and update it whenever they need going forward. And often if if you're in your first year of business, that first year of business, things are changing so much. Like you guys, right? It is changing so much, and you're still, you're trying to get your footing and figure out, okay, exactly, who your client is and what your offers are going to be. So it can be very helpful in that case to just choose to DIY, keep your costs lower at the beginning, and then also be able to, save time and money once you have that skill set. So yeah, I think I would say that even if you do decide to hire a website designer as well, just make sure that you do familiarize yourself with the platform that you're using. You don't want to be completely hands off with your website. You want to be able to, if needed, to be able to go in and to make any changes. Because sometimes, you'll just like change the date on an event, for example, and you really just want to be able to quickly go in and change the date on the event. So I think both are fantastic options. No matter which one you choose, just make sure, you at least know the basics so that you can really be like self-sufficient with your website and you don't have to always be reliant on others.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Thank you. Kerstin.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, you've pretty much nailed it. I think in the end, it comes down to money versus time as well. And, because you always have to either spend money or time on doing something, especially when you're building a business. So in the beginning, there'll be less money probably. So you're going to have to spend more time on doing things yourself, or learning things. I would also say, though, when it comes to websites, now a platform like Squarespace does make it pretty easy, compared to others, especially. But also, I think if someone has totally no technical inclination at all, I'm thinking of some of my clients when I was still a web designer. I did have, clients who just had no clue and no interest in learning how to do a website or even how to maintain it, and so I think, I'm sure most people in the audience here today, they are people who enjoy doing DIY and who like doing a lot of things themselves, but if you are someone who just feels completely overwhelmed by the tech part of it, well, then see if you can find a designer, there are, for instance, a lot of designers who are just starting out. They're not that expensive, and, but if you are, if you feel like you would enjoy learning about it, and certainly with Squarespace, you're right, Louise. If I just have to change the date on something or just, make a small text change, I want to be able to do that. I don't want to have to email my designer, to do this, and I feel certainly a platform like Squarespace makes that quite easy, because you can go right in, you immediately see your changes. You don't change them in one window and then you have to refresh your page to see it. It's actually, you're doing it right there on the page, so which is wonderful, so, but yeah, time versus money.
I love what you said, like that, what you said about time versus money, right? So like a lot of the times, even for myself, when I decided to invest in something dollar-wise financially, it was a question of, is this going to save me time that I could be living in my genius and doing the work that does create more revenue for my business? Yeah. Or am I going to be in a time suck, mainly because I'm stressed out because I don't know the technology. I'm stressed out because I don't know the strategy. I'm stressed out because I don't know how to do this. And sometimes when you're stressed about doing something, it then makes the time even longer. It's like try doing something you really don't want to do. I don't know about y'all, but it's like 1 hour will turn into like 10. And so, I think you have to decide for yourself, do I save the dollars to make this worth it, right? Invest in a website, because a website is a marketing tool, like Louise said, like that is the tool that is going to be the hub of all your services, your products, your everything, your content, your lead generation. That is the bread and butter of everything that you're doing. That's essential, that's the nucleus. And then everything else, it will go into those funnels. And so really, are you doing so? And now if you are do-it-yourselfer, hell yes. If that is like something that you find joy in, then absolutely do it. Like if that's something that you can, and you have the know-how about how to do those bells and whistles, absolutely, right? Invest that money into something else. But I love what you said, time versus money. Does that make sense? So we have a couple more minutes. I do want to open up the floodgates for any questions that anybody have. You can use the Q&A box. You can use the chat box. I'm looking at both. If you have any questions about websites or just deciding whether this is for you, strengthening your website, anything like that, this is the time to do it. Q&A box. Johanna, hi. How do you deal with other website designing platforms like Wix and the optimization of your SEO? Which platforms do you recommend for courses or classes? I don't know if one of you guys want to take it.
Kerstin, maybe you want to talk about it because you do the member areas.
Oh, member areas. Yeah. Now Wix, I have to say, I don't know much about Wix. Wix is supposed to be not good for SEO, but I don't know if that's true anymore. So I cannot really comment on that. Platforms for courses or classes. Now, both Louise and I live and breathe that stuff. We both teach online, and there are actually quite a few things that go into this. I've been hosting e-courses on Squarespace for more than 5 years, and I love it. But it's not a teaching platform. And I always feel that people have to be realistic about that. You do not get teaching tools, like you don't have lesson progression. They don't have a built-in affiliate program. So there are certain things that they just don't have, and but they just launched a member areas, which is their own, so you can gate your content now on Squarespace. Your members, can create their own login. They have their own account, which is great. We've been waiting for that for years. And I love it because I love keeping everything in one place. I mean, I use my website for everything: email marketing, memberships and commerce. I mean, everything, scheduling. And so there's the convenience aspect of that. And I also love this styling and designing my courses on Squarespace. You can't do that in the teaching platforms. You can make your classroom look amazing on Squarespace. And and you have options to navigate. I use checklists, for instance, so instead of having the lesson that you have on a teaching platform, I just give people a downloadable checklist, and at least my students, they love that. And a bit of analog. I always like to have a little bit of analog in my digital life, and but I think Louise can also speak to the benefits of going to somewhere like Kartra. I think that's what you use, right? And what the benefits are there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I still like to keep my website and the foundation of my platform for SEO purposes on Squarespace. And that's because Squarespace has done a lot on their end to help us with SEO. And you get the full blogging functionality. So, that's where most of us as small business owners, our biggest chance of ranking for keywords really is in your content, like is in the individual blog post. You answer someone's specific question and you're going to be able to rank for that even as a newer business owner. So I like to keep it there, but then I did choose to use a teaching platform. I chose to use Kartra, which is fantastic. I would say it's really advanced in terms of what it can do. So if you're, really looking for something that's very powerful, it allows you to have online courses, an affiliate program, more advanced checkout systems. So there are platforms out there. So you can choose, you can decide, I'm going to keep everything, a bit simpler and on Squarespace and do that, or you could choose to link them together and sync them up, and it works quite well to connect them together. But yeah, there's just quite a few features there that I really love having, and that's because I've always, this was before Squarespace was doing anything like that, and I've always been on an external teaching platform, and so now I'm attached to the features that I have, and so it would be hard to let it go.
I love that. Thank you guys for answering. I think I'm kind of in the mix too. Kerstin, I love how you've transferred everything over inside of Squarespace. I love that model, and I wish I would have did it that way before. I agree. So my courses are unteachable. And although it doesn't also have all the bells and whistles, all of my sales pages and stuff like that are on Squarespace. So I too kind of mind meld the two. Kartra is great. We do a lot of our clients are using Kartra, and then they have their Squarespace website. But I would, it's totally, it's a preference, whatever's easiest technology wise, whatever works for you, let that be it. If it's going to be a huge learning curve, you don't want to take away from the product, and you really want to focus on the customer experience. Whatever's going to work for the customer is really ultimately what needs to happen. But yeah, I too have all of the design elements, landing pages and stuff like that holistically on Squarespace. And then checkout and the actual course itself is unteachable, but you could do the very same thing with Kartra. And Louise has a course for how to set all of that stuff up in Kartra, which I've heard is a bomb. So if that's an option, I would check that out. Love it. You're so welcome. All right. We have about maybe a couple more minutes for any more questions. And then we are going to hop into the very next session. In the meantime, if anybody has questions, go ahead and hop those in. I would love to just thank Louise and Kerstin for hopping on this call, sharing their wealth of knowledge. I mean, these women are amazing. Where can people find you, get connected, and all that fun jazz? Louise, you can hop off. Start first.
Awesome. So mine, super simple, just louisehenry.com, and then you will find everything there. You can dive in, click on my blog page, and dive into all sorts of free content. I can help you with a lot of the different tech elements of running your business. So yeah, that's it.
Amazing. Kerstin?
Yeah, same thing, kerstinmartin.com. Make sure you spell my first name correctly. And that's where you find everything as well. So I have a really great small business toolbox, where I have a lot of great tools that can help you, and my courses are on there as well. So anything Squarespace, that's basically what I do. Thank you.
Love it. Please, please, please make sure you go check out these ladies, their wealth of knowledge. I just, again, thank you guys so much for hopping on this conversation and sharing the knowledge. Like I'm sure these women, and answering all these questions, this event was meant to do exactly this, just share and help others. And so I cannot thank you guys enough. I love you guys. Thank you so much.